Hey folks, Allison here. Well, I want to talk about a serious topic today. I would guess a lot of people in my audience are working in some kind of ministry, maybe a nonprofit, you volunteer at the church, certain committees, whatever. There is something strange and unexpected that can happen when you're working in kind of a mission-oriented field. And, you go in with the best of intentions, which I think everybody does. And you think you're around people who are aligned with your values, right? Aren't we all Christians who are living by the golden rule? And then conflicts happen, or jealousies, or subtle attacks, and division. And it can be a devastating experience because, number one, we're totally unprepared. We go in there so innocently, and it's so unexpected, we just don't know how to deal with it, how to cope with it. I mean, is everybody supposed to be Catholic here, or Christian here at least? So why is this happening? And why isn't anybody doing anything about it? We could be in a place where, maybe you're telling the leadership and they're not doing anything about it. Or maybe the leadership is the problem, right? Now, I've been there 3 times, actually. The first time was devastating and bewildering. I was young. I was in my 20s. We were doing pro-life work. It happened with very close friends, and it got ugly. It really was ugly and devastating. The second time, a little less so. All right. It was also doing pro-life work. It was upsetting, but I was not absolutely shocked because I'd been through it before. Third time, I already had my defenses in place because especially where I had taken a job at a counseling agency and I saw similar dynamics. So I was kind of ready for it. I was hoping it wouldn't happen. But I wasn't completely shocked when it did. Everyone seems to be really good in the beginning, right? So what happens? Why does this happen among good people? And I want to really emphasize, in all 3 situations that I was in, these were good people that hurt me. They weren't evil. They were good people. And I think that's what's so hard to cope with. If we could just write them off as evil, okay, they're horrible, whatever. But they weren't, and I knew that. So you have this inner conflict going on. So why does this happen? I think there's 3 things. Number 1, human nature. We're fallen, folks. I don't care how Catholic, Christian you are. We're all fallen. And we all have our foibles, and we need to be aware of those, and we need humility. But, the devil knows how to spark our pride, doesn't he? I think also we go in with unrealistic expectations. We think it's going to be this panacea because we're in this wonderful Christian place and everybody's going to be so nice. It doesn't always happen because of fallen human nature. I think another reason, unprepared leadership. Sometimes the leaders are also volunteers that really don't have experience in managing a team or dealing with some of the stuff that may crop up, and they may not address it effectively. And last but not least is spiritual warfare. If you are doing something good, do not be shocked if the devil tries to take it down. And he knows exactly what your weakness is, what my weakness is, those ways he can get in there to start the division, to start the resentments, to start the problems. All right. So how can you deal with it? Maybe you're in that situation right now. How can you deal with it? Number 1, trust your own feelings and experience. All right. What you're feeling is giving you good information. All right. Something is not right. Now, sometimes we don't trust those feelings because how could this possibly be happening? There's such a good person. How could this be happening? But trust your feelings give you information. Just like if it gets too hot in the room, you need to open a window. Trust your feelings. Or if you're getting too close to a candle, trust your feelings. So the same thing here. If something's really bugging you or making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel taken advantage of, listen to that. All right? It doesn't mean it's always the truth, but listen to your feelings because they're giving you good information. It's always a good idea to talk to somebody impartial outside of the situation. Whenever possible, we want to talk to somebody who's outside the situation and just describe what we're going through. Sometimes we just need to vent, but sometimes we need some feedback from them. Like maybe they can give us some suggestions, or maybe they could suggest something maybe we need to change that Look at what you may have done or are doing that's contributing to the problem. And that's where an impartial person can really help you with this. How am I responding to this person? All right. Am I getting so mad at them that I'm kind of backbiting with somebody else and talking about them? Am I being passive aggressive with them? Am I not communicating clearly with them? Try to look at, are you contributing anything to the situation? It might just be in response to it. Is it working? So, what are you bringing to the table here? This is very important. Again, most people in these situations are good people. So try to remember the good in this other person or the people involved. I know in my situation, especially the first time, I knew there was so much goodness here. They had led me back to my faith, and yet this whole horrible thing blew up. So I try to just remember they're good people. Think about the Mount Tabor vision, right? The apostles saw Jesus in all his glory. And that was really to prepare them for the scandal of the weakness and what he's going to go through on the cross, right? Where they're going to question their own faith and run away and everything else, right? So try to remember the goodness of the person. There might be things that are clearly not good going on, but try to write down, what are the good things about this person? Pray for them. And like I said, this was the greatest lesson of my life. Pray for those who hurt you. I had no other choice, because it was so horrible and it was so devastating. All I could do was pray Hail Marys. This is where it's great to be Catholic, because you don't have to make it up from your heart, right? You just say a Hail Mary and Our Father, whatever. But it was that act of obedience with that intention to pray for that person that started taking the sting away from me and started helping me to remember their goodness and to kind of really put it in the right perspective. We always want to be merciful in these situations, but we do need to seek justice. So if you're in a situation, let's say in a ministry or at work or whatever, where somebody is being abusive in any way, unfair in any way, it's really important to bring it to who's ever in charge, to seek redress, to seek some resolution. Maybe they need to be spoken to. Maybe you can try to speak to them. Sometimes, communication breaks down. We can't really do that effectively. But, that's always the first place we want to start. Hey, you're doing this. It's kind of I don't really like the way this is happening or whatever. If you can talk to them, all right? It's a matter of justice, because think about this. You walked into the situation with the greatest of intentions, and maybe you have a strong enough faith, but somebody with less faith could enter the situation, feel very abused, and walk away from the church because this abuse is being allowed to take place. So we do need to seek justice. We need to seek a resolution, and usually going to leadership is where you want to go. First to the person, then to the leaders, all right? Whether it's the priest in the parish, who's ever in charge of the ministry, someone. Review and tighten your boundaries, all right? You really need to sit down and say, okay, what is acceptable that I may have to put up with? And where do I draw the line that I am not allowing them to speak to me this way, treat me this way, whatever it is? I think it's important for that to be very, very clear. So, and you probably have enough of a history. You could say, okay, this is totally unacceptable. Let's say they curse you out in front of other employees or other volunteers. Absolute no-no. Or if there any kind of physical abuse, obviously sexual abuse, all big no-nos. All right. But there might be some things where, they make a little sarcastic remark here or there. Fine, you're just going to suck it up for the greater cause, right? So there might be some things that you say, okay, I can put up with this, but this is where I'm going to draw the line. I think that's really important. The other thing I think is to explore other options. If the situation doesn't improve, if leadership refuses to address it, if it becomes unworkable or intolerable for you, then I think you need to pray and say, all right, God, what do you want here? Do you want to move me maybe into a different ministry or some other work that would be better? So I think that's important to always leave open that possibility, because I think when we feel like I can't leave and this is the only, then we really feel out of control. We always do have options. Now, like I said, there may be things that you can put in place to say, okay, it's not a perfect situation, but certain things are intolerable, and that's where I draw the line, and I may need to make a move. And I think, sometimes God allows an injustice to take place to move us to a different situation, right? But pray for the people involved, because God is going to bring good of this, all right? That is his goal. He can bring good of this if you allow him to. And if you kind of take a perspective where there's more than what's going on between you and maybe one other person or people, there's something bigger at stake. So sometimes, yeah, we need to kind of work it through because we're working toward a goal that's really a good and holy endeavor. But it's okay to say, okay, this may not be the right place for me at the time. So to kind of leave, when we have that out, we can sometimes figure it out better than if we feel stuck, because that can make us feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I hope you find this helpful. I'll put some notes below this with some of the steps to go through that I hope you'll find helpful. But again, I know so many people have been hurt in these situations. It's not uncommon. If you're doing good work, the devil is going to try to destroy it. And we need to be one step ahead of him and not let him. So pray for those who hurt you. There's a reason that Jesus said that. Pray for those who hurt you, because that is the road to freedom. And that also will give them the grace at some point to perhaps change, repent. I can tell you in that first situation, we did reconcile. It was years later, and it was very heartfelt, and it was really beautiful. But it took a long time, and I was free of it because I was praying for her. I was praying for both of them that were involved, and I was fine. I was actually fine. I moved on and did other bigger things, better things. So God has a plan in all of this. But like I said, sometimes we go in like innocent lambs, and it can be devastating. It's not uncommon. You're not the only one. But using these steps, I think you can get through it more effectively. God bless you.